Welcome to the Build About podcast. We're going to take a look at the updates on this driver that was arrested in the deadly Florida Turnpike crash, which has killed 3 people. As I just mentioned, he's been arrested, and from what I read, he is going to be tried, convicted, and then sent, or he's going to be deported back to India. So apparently that's the reports. He entered the country through Mexico. He's an illegal from India. I think that was pretty obvious that he was Indian. The reports today are suggesting that we've seen this guy before, that back in 2019, he was responsible for the Dale Bend Bridge incident, which collapsed the bridge, a historic bridge that was 88 years old in Arkansas. I'm going to post some video of that and some pics. And so I guess his GPS led him down this way, and he ended up just going where it said to go, despite the fact it had a weight limit on it that he ignored. He was about, what did it say, 66,000 pounds heavier than the bridge's capacity, and he ended up sinking it in the water. And by the time the morning came around, emergency crews came out, his tractor was submerged, right? It reminds me of the time when I was driving down Highway 68 with some auto parts, and there was an Avert Express truck. He took his GPS or whatever. He tried to go down the railroad tracks with his truck, and it was comical to say the least. But so this company that he worked for, supposedly this Harjinder Singh worked for, was called Citylink USA. It was based out of Bakersfield, California, and he was sued in 2022 for damages. Interestingly, it said he had a record of reckless driving, which would be, it's possible, it's fascinating, since he just arrived to the U.S. from Mexico in 2018. So a year later, he's already racked up a huge list of, infractions that caused the judge to, or caused the lawyer or prosecutor to say, this is what you've done is willfully negligent. Right, so we'll talk about that part of the story later. So the company, or I think him personally, was sued because the locals had to drive around. It was a popular road for hunters, and they had to drive around to get where they want to go. It's an extra half hour on their day. So that's the story. That's the background. And the big question is it the same guy? Okay, now, full disclosure, I'm not convinced that it is. And literally 5 minutes before I started recording this, the popular website Not the Bee put out their own story claiming the same, based on an age disparity. So if I'm wrong, I'm going to be wrong with Not the Bee, and I'll tell you my reasons why I'm a little bit skeptic that it's the same guy. And look, I know a lot of people want to just believe it's the same guy, right? It's a cool story on one hand, right? We're kind of morbid that way. It feeds the rage and it feeds the narrative, though I don't think you need anything else to feed the narrative, okay? But before I go into why I don't think it is, I'll tell you why you don't need to feed the narrative. One detail that was mentioned back in 2019, I think it was by CDL Life, is that a lack of English proficiency is what led to this truck going through this bridge, right? They either saw the sign and they neglected to pay attention to it, or they couldn't even understand English to begin with, right? They couldn't understand the numbers. They didn't see the no truck sign. They just, so they either couldn't read or they didn't care, right? So I don't think you need to pour gasoline onto the fire to feed the narrative, right? Everybody understands in both cases, so you have English proficiency on one hand. I don't know if the other guy was illegal or not. It didn't really mention that. It only mentioned that in conjunction to it, the assumption that it's the same guy, right? So is it the same guy? I'm not convinced. Because in all the sources, from what I see, I was looking for a picture. I was looking for a comparison. I tried to find a comparison, a side-by-side of Harjinder Singh from 2019 and Harjinder Singh 2025. That wasn't there. The only thing that connects them that I can see is the name. Harjinder Singh, who worked for US Citylink. Harjinder Singh, who worked for White Hot Carriers in 2025. Just the name. No side-by-side pictures. There's no date of birth. There's nothing from the court records that connects the two to show they're the same person. His driver's license, CDL number, there's nothing. I would have been fine with a picture, actually. That's what I would have been fine with a picture. I don't need any of the other stuff. I'd have been fine with a picture, but there's not really anything. And when you combine that with not the bees discovery that the age disparity, one was in his late 30s, one was in his late 20s, it doesn't add up. And then on top of that, I admit I used AI and I found there are approximately 300 Harjinder Singhs in California. And between Bakersfield, where U.S. Citylink was located, and Ceres, Ceres, California, there's like 29%. There's a big Punjab population there, and 29% are roughly estimated to be named Harjinder Singhs. So there's a lot of Harjinder Singhs. How do you know it's the same one, right? Every Punjab's last name is Singh, and so there was a lack of identity. And when I read the articles would say reportedly, according to reports. Well, whose report? And then you go to the link that they share. One article, it claimed that Times of India had connected the dots. Well, Times of India, all it said was CDL reportedly this says, but doesn't give you a link, right? So I go to the CDL articles from 2019 and 2021, and there's no picture, right? There's nothing that I could see that would link the two of them together. So as much as we might want that to be true, I'm just gonna reserve judgment on this. All right, it would be interesting, But another little detail, it's entirely possible, is that in 2021, when Harjinder was being sued for the bridge, the prosecutor, they're quoting the CDL article from 2021, the prosecutor said, let me see if I got this quote here. Just bear with me for a second here. I do believe I actually copied the quote. Upon information and belief based on past driving record of defendant Singh and the obvious disregard for known and posted weight limits, defendant's actions rise to the level of grossly negligent, willful, wanton, reckless, malicious, and or intentional conduct, the lawsuit alleges. That's from the CDL Life article. The interesting thing about this quote is that this Harjinder Singh from 2019 apparently already had an extensive history of dangerous driving, according to what this quotation says. So if I do the timeline, if the Harjinder Singh of 2025 is the same as Harjinder Singh of 2019, and if this Harjinder Singh just arrived in the United States in 2018, that means within not even a year, he got his CDL license. And he had racked up an extensive list of, an extensive record of dangerous driving or fines or whatever. And that is entirely possible. I did know a guy who, when I got my license, I ran into me and my trainer, my teacher actually, I was still getting my license. We did run into one of his former students who had recently just got his license, and he already had a few fines. He got pulled into the MTO and they raked him over the coals. They threw the book at him for everything, right? So it's possible. It could be him, but it just seems, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's unlikely. It's possible, but within a matter of months, this guy is already, and somehow he's managed to keep it going for another, 6 years or 5 years, 6 years. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to reserve judgment on this one. All we know about this guy, there's a man named Harjinder Singh. He entered the United States illegally. He is a poster child and a walking meme for Mr. Trump's immigration policies, right? For his deportation policies, right? He's just a walking meme. So was the original Harjinder Singh. They both are. And he killed 3 people. He's been arrested. He is in ICE detention, I think is what it said. And he is, after his sentencing and his time in Florida, after he has the book thrown at him, he's going to be deported. Right now, that's all we know. And anyway, I'm going to follow this story because I find it interesting. So anyway, y'all take care. Keep the rubber side down. Until next time, take care.